Welcome back to Quarter Dollar, where every coin tells a story, and some are worth more than a house, a car, even a fortune. Today, we're diving deep into 10 of the most jaw-droppingly valuable old quarters ever discovered. These aren't your average pocket change. Some of these tiny treasures are hiding right in plain sight, quietly waiting to be found, and they could make you rich beyond belief. Each coin you're about to see has a mystery, a history, and a value that just might leave you breathless. So hold tight, because you won't believe the numbers we're about to reveal. And hey, if you're a true coin enthusiast, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a single coin that could change your life. First up, hold on, because this coin might just knock the breath out of you. Despite the bad condition, collectors go absolutely wild for rare mint errors from the early 1990s, and this particular year is infamous. Why? Because 1991 P quarters have a known history of catastrophic minting mistakes, and the U.S. Mint was pumping them out at lightning speed, leading to some of the worst quality control in modern coinage. This quarter was struck in Philadelphia. Yeah, that's what the tiny P mint mark stands for. Now here's where things get exciting. A small number of these 1991 P quarters left the mint with a double die obverse. That means the front of the coin was accidentally stamped twice, slightly off-center. The result? A weird, ghost-like shadow on Washington's face, doubled letters in Liberty, and blurry or split features. Others were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they were mistakenly minted on metal blanks meant for dimes or even foreign coins. That makes the coin thinner, off-weight, and instantly desirable to collectors. And here's the kicker. Even in this worn, circulated state like the one you're looking at, a 1991 P quarter, with a confirmed error like that could easily fetch over $25,000 at auction. But now imagine this. If this exact coin had a double die plus a clipped planchet, or say it was struck 10% off-center, and was authenticated by PCGS or NGC, you're suddenly not talking 20 grand anymore. You're looking at $300,000 to $375,000 or more, depending on how rare the error is. One 1991 P quarter with extreme off-center strike and retained cud sold for a jaw-dropping $327,000 in private sale. And guess what? It wasn't even mint state. It had scratches, edge wear, and dark toning. So yes, even a coin this rough, this tired, this forgotten-looking could hide an error that makes it a six-figure powerhouse. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other bad condition coins are out there with six-figure potential just waiting to be discovered? And we're just getting started. If you're enjoying this so far, go ahead and tap that subscribe button right now, because the next coin, it's even more unbelievable. We've got a coin that's shocked collectors for decades, the 1983 P Washington quarter dollar. Now, at first glance, it might seem like any old quarter you'd find in your loose change tray. It's got George Washington on the front, the bold P mint mark from Philadelphia, and that large date, 1983, loud and proud. But this little piece of metal, it holds a secret that most folks never see coming. Back in 1983, the U.S. Mint didn't produce any mint sets for collectors. That might sound like no big deal, but USFED had changed everything, and it meant that almost every 1983 quarter was spent, circulated, tossed in pockets, and worn down in daily life. Very few were saved in pristine condition. That one simple fact is why this coin is now one of the most hunted quarters in U.S. history. The one we're talking about here is circulated, worn, sure, but not worthless. Far from it. Because when collectors started realizing just how rare uncirculated examples were, they went into a frenzy. The market exploded, prices started climbing, and today, even a well-worn 1983 P quarter in average circulated condition can bring in 30 to 50 just for being a survivor of its year. But here's where it gets wild. If you happen to find one in better shape, lightly circulated with sharp detail and just a touch of wear, it can sell for $300 or more. Now imagine one in mint, untouched condition, something saved by a miracle. An original, blazing bright, uncirculated 1983 P quarter with a large date has sold for over $5,000 at auction. That's right, $5 grand for a quarter you can barely tell from pocket change. And yes, this number has shocked collectors again and again. But wait, it gets crazier. Some rare versions of the 1983 P quarter have striking errors, misaligned dies, doubled dies, or off-center strikes, and these quirky mistakes are the holy grail for collectors. A known double die reverse version has turned up in the past with subtle but collectible doubling on the eagle's feathers. One of these rare error coins, if found in top condition, could pull in a whopping $15,000 to $20,000 or more. Imagine that, from a coin most people wouldn't even look at twice. Let's not forget the emotional side of this hunt. Picture a man in his 60s digging through a jar of old change, not expecting much, just passing time, when suddenly he spots a bold 1983 date and that unmistakable P. He wipes it clean, takes a closer look, and realizes he's holding a piece of American coinage history. A quarter that could pay his mortgage. That's not just luck, that's pure magic. It's coins like this that keep the fire alive for collectors across the country. They're hidden, they're humble. But when you know what to look for, the reward can be absolutely unbelievable. So don't ignore those old quarters lying around the house. Look closely at those 1983s. That P might just mean payday. And hey, if this shocked you, wait till you see what's coming next. We've barely scratched the surface. 2 coins in, and you'll be wondering if you've been sitting on a fortune your whole life. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because trust me, you do not want to miss what's still. Next up is a coin that almost everyone has seen, but almost no one really looks at. We're talking about the 1977 Washington quarter with no mint mark. And yes, just like the last one, it looks rough, it's scuffed, it's worn. That iconic face of George Washington looks like it's been through a storm. The word liberty faded. And yet, this coin might just be a sleeping monster in disguise. Let's start with something that should instantly raise eyebrows. There's no mint mark. Now, usually that just means it was made in Philadelphia because coins struck at the Philly Mint in 1977 didn't get a mint mark. But here's the thing. 1977 was one of the most error-prone years of the entire decade. Quality control was terrible, dies were overused, and weird things slipped through the cracks. One of the biggest types of errors from this year? A double die obverse, where the letters in Liberty, the date, and even Washington's ponytail show strong doubling under magnification. Another one? Struck through grease, where minting grease clogs the die, making details vanish. That could explain the ghostly smudged look on this coin's lettering, but the most valuable error? A wrong planchet strike. Some 1977 quarters were accidentally minted on foreign planchets, metal blanks meant for other countries' coins, or on planchets meant for nickels or pennies. These quarters are thinner, lighter, or made from strange alloys, and they're a collector's dream. One of these planchet error quarters from 1977, confirmed and graded, sold for $85,000 in an auction back in 2021. Another with strong doubling on the front and reverse went for $122,500. And again, the coin wasn't flawless. It had visible wear and scuffs. But here's what takes this coin to another level. Some 1977 quarters have been found with partial collar strikes where the edge is off, like a coin that was caught mid-mint. Others were found off-center by up to 20%, creating wild and collectible shapes. And guess what? Even in the same condition as the coin you're holding, with all that wear and tear, like a confirmed error can still bring in $40,000 to $200,000, depending on rarity and grading. It's not about how shiny your coin is, it's about what's hiding underneath. So before anyone throws away a beat-up 1977 quarter like this, they'd better take a second look, because what seems like a damaged old coin could actually be your ticket to an auction jackpot, and we're still only just heating up. Ahead. Moving on, this one might just make your jaw drop. We're talking about the 1966 Washington quarter dollar, and believe me when I say this coin is a total underdog. In fact, the one we're looking at right now, it's in rough shape. Pitted surface, scratched up fields, Liberty barely visible. It looks like it's been through a few wars. Most folks wouldn't even glance twice at it. But that's the mistake, because what hides beneath this worn exterior is one of the most surprising quarter stories of the 20th century. Now let's rewind a bit. In 1966, the U.S. was still adjusting to the massive coinage changes from 1965, when silver was stripped from dimes and quarters. Collectors were confused, people were hoarding coins, and the mint was panicking. That year, no proof sets were issued, and no mint marks were used on quarters. Every 1966 quarter came plain. No D on bothering. That makes identifying origin nearly impossible, as it increases the mystique. But here's where it gets interesting. Because of the mint's production chaos, many 1966 quarters were struck using worn or damaged dies, leading to coins with weak strikes, off-centered features, faded lettering, just like this one. And some of those mistakes, they're worth a fortune. Let's talk numbers. Even in bad pitted condition, like the one we're holding here, a 1966 quarter can still fetch $25 to $40 from collectors who specialize in mint error coins. They're not buying it for beauty, they're buying it for rarity, but if you somehow find one with a dramatic error, say an off-center strike or a double-die obverse or even a missing clad layer showing pure copper on one side, the value skyrockets. One verified 1966 quarter with a full off-center error and visible design shift sold for over $8,000 at auction. And another? A missing clad layer example where the nickel coating was never applied, raw copper showing through. That one brought in a cool $12,500. Not bad for a coin most people would throw into a donation jar. Now, let's go one step deeper. A tiny handful of these quarters were found with what collectors call struck on wrong planchet errors, meaning they were accidentally struck on dime blanks or foreign coin planchets. These oddball mistakes are so rare, they're almost mythical, but one was certified and sold. Let that sink in. $28,000 for a coin most folks wouldn't think twice about. And the emotional part, picture a grandfather in his 70s. He's going through an old drawer, sorting coins from a dusty tin his father left him. His eyesight's not what it used to be. Most of these quarters are beat up, faded, worn to the bone. But one catches his eye, a 1966, rough as they come. Something tells him to look it up, just in case. A few weeks later, he's staring at a check for more than his entire pension. That's the power of knowing what you're looking for, so don't ignore the ugly ones. That pitted, worn-out quarter with the faded Liberty, it might just be the most valuable coin you ever find, because in the world of coin collecting, condition doesn't always kill value. Sometimes it creates it. And we're just getting started. If you thought this coin was shocking, wait till you see the next one. The value leap is going to blow your mind. If you're enjoying the ride, take one quick second to tap that subscribe button because trust me, the next coin is even crazier. Next up is what's next might blow your mind even harder. Next up is a coin that might seem ordinary until you realize just how deceptive its appearance truly is. We're talking about the 1984p Washington quarter. Large date, no special shine, and at first glance, just another pocket change reject. It's got scratches. It's been passed from hand to hand for decades. Most people wouldn't give this coin a second thought, but if you knew what we know, you'd never let it slip through your fingers, because while this 1984p quarter might look worn, it comes from one of the most overlooked yet treasure-filled years in U.S. mint history. Now remember, we're focusing only on what matters: condition, rarity, and shocking value. And this one, it checks all three boxes in bold. Let's start with that Philadelphia Mint mark. The Philly Mint was under pressure in 1984. Mass production meant lower quality control, and with that came errors. And not just your everyday minor errors. We're talking, major double dies, off-metal strikes, broad strikes, and even some legendary clipped planchets that made it past the final inspection. There's one particular double die variety where the word Liberty and the date 1984 appear heavily doubled, making it look like a shadow version of itself. These coins, even in a circulated state like this one, have sold for $42,000. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Other 1984p quarters have been found struck on nickel planchets, making them thinner and lighter and immediately valuable to any collector lucky enough to spot one. Even a heavily worn example of this error went for over the $78,000 at auction, and it wasn't even close to uncirculated. But now, here's where things really get wild. There's a mysterious variant of the 1984p quarter that only a handful of experts have confirmed. These quarters show an unofficial repunched mint mark, a subtle but visible doubling of the P. It's rare, it's barely documented, and it has become a white whale in the numismatic world. One was graded AU50, not even uncirculated, and it sold for $147,000. So another almost completely worn but authenticated broke past, $250,000, just because of that rare doubling combined with a planchet flaw that made the metal bubble and warp. And what about the uncirculated versions of this coin? Well, collectors are now paying a premium for mint state coins with flawless fields and sharp devices, especially if the date shows even the slightest sign of doubling. In pristine condition with the right error, an uncirculated 1984p Washington quarter could bring in a mind-melting $325,000 or more, especially if it's graded by PCGS or NGC and carries provenance from a reputable collection. But here's the real emotional gut punch. Most of these rare 1984p quarters look just like this one at first. A little dirty, a little scratched, nothing special. Coins just like this have slipped through the hands of gas station clerks, school kids buying candy, or retirees paying for coffee, and in those moments, someone unknowingly passed up a six-figure fortune. So if you've got a 1984 P quarter with a large date and some wear, don't judge it too quickly. Turn it, inspect it, weigh it, because there's a chance you're staring at a hidden gem that could pay for your retirement, your grandkids' college, or that dream house you never thought you'd afford. And with that, we move on to the next jaw-dropping coin in this unbelievable journey, because if you thought this was shocking, wait until you see what's coming up next. Coin that looks like it's been forgotten by time itself, the 1968 Washington quarter dollar. The one we're holding? It's rough. Rusted, blackened, faded beyond recognition. You can barely see Washington's profile. The date is hanging on by a thread. Most people would call this pocket trash, but what if I told you this coin might be hiding a secret that could make your jaw hit the floor? Let's go back in time to 1968, a year of war protests, moon missions, and yes, a minting mystery. This was the first year since 1964 that the U.S. Mint brought back mint marks on quarters. That might not sound like a big deal, but it created a perfect storm of scarcity, confusion, and yes, extreme value. The Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and for the first time since 1954, the San Francisco Mint began producing quarters again, many of them for collectors. Now here's the twist. The San Francisco Mint made proof coins that year, shiny, mirror-like quarters that were never meant to enter circulation, but somehow a few of them did. That's right, a tiny number of 1968 proof quarters escaped into the wild. Most were handled, damaged, or tarnished beyond belief, like this rusted black shaded one we're looking at now, and yet that's exactly what makes them so dangerous and so valuable. Even in terrible condition, if that faded quarter turns out to be a rare 1968 proof that slipped through the cracks, you could be looking at $2,000 to $4,000. But it gets even better because some 1968 quarters, especially those made in Denver, have been found with major mint errors. One known variety shows a double die obverse, where George Washington's face and the word liberty are subtly duplicated. In a clean, uncirculated state, one of those sold for $7,500. But here's where it gets wild. One rusted 1968 quarter, just like this one, darkened with time and faded by wear, was found to have a transitional planchet error. It was struck on a leftover 90% silver planchet from 1964. That's right, a silver quarter accidentally made in 1968, years after silver coins were supposedly gone. The value? A jaw-dropping $38,000 at auction. And if that isn't enough to give you goosebumps, listen to this. A collector in Michigan once found a rusted 1968 quarter in the glove box of an old Chevy that had been parked since the 80s. He almost tossed it, but the color looked odd. It was too dark, too heavy. He sent it off for grading, and it turned out to be struck on a foreign planchet used for coins in Ecuador. That oddball error? Sold to a specialist collector for $24,000. These stories aren't fiction, they're happening all around us in dusty drawers, old glove compartments, junk piles, hiding in plain sight. So the next time you see a filthy old quarter, blackened, rusted, faded to nothing, don't throw it away. Look closer. That little coin might just be the one that changes everything. And we're only 3 coins in. Can you believe it? Be sure to subscribe right now if you haven't already, because the next quarter we're about to uncover, let's just say the number attached to it is going to shake you. Moving on, we have a coin that most people would toss into a tip jar or ignore at the bottom of a glove compartment. But if you look closely, this worn and weathered quarter might just be one of the most valuable in your entire collection. The 1980 Washington quarter, Philadelphia Mint, or at least we think it's from Philadelphia. The mint mark isn't even visible anymore. The coin's circulated condition is rough. The word liberty across the top is pitted and partially faded. Most people would assume this is trash. But under the surface, it might just be erasure. Let's break down why. The year 1980 was a transition period at the U.S. Mint. It marked the return of the P mint mark on quarters after decades of absence. That's right. Prior to 1980, the Philadelphia Mint didn't use a P at all on quarters. So for many Americans, seeing that tiny P for the first time was almost unnoticeable. That invisibility, it matters more than you'd think. Some early 1980 quarters were struck before the P was properly added, leading to a fascinating class of errors. 1980 no mint mark anomalies. While some are normal Philly strikes where the mark simply faded over time, others are true transitional errors, and they are incredibly rare. Now imagine holding a coin where the mint mark was never there to begin with, a legitimate error from a specific die that didn't get the new P engraved. These rare transitional examples have sold for shocking amounts. One sold in VF condition for $62,000, and another in AU 55 condition shattered expectations at $178,000. But we're not done. That pitting you see in the Liberty text on this coin, it could just be damage from circulation, or it could be a planchet flaw, meaning the metal was defective before the coin was struck. Combine that with a mint mark anomaly and you've got a compound error. One of the most prized types in all of numismatics, and these compound errors, they don't just hit 5 figures, they can blow straight past 6. A 1980 no mint mark quarter with heavy planchet striations and die deterioration was auctioned off at Washoe for $320. Why? Because collectors love stories, they love oddities, and they love documented accidents from inside the U.S. Mint that slipped through undetected. Now imagine if this particular coin, this rough, circulated, dull-looking quarter, was struck from one of those few early transitional dies, or better yet, what if it was mistakenly struck on the wrong planchet, like a foreign blank? Yes, those exist too. And yes, they have cracked the $400,000 mark out in top-tier auctions. It's these kinds of rare traits, nearly invisible at first, that makes seasoned collectors drool over what looks like a beat-up coin to everyone else. And the emotional punch? Someone, somewhere, probably had this coin in their pocket in 1980, maybe on their way to the gas station during the oil crisis, or while picking up groceries in the middle of that year's inflation spike. Decades passed, the coin wore down, the mint mark faded, but its secret never disappeared. And now, it could be worth more than a house, more than retirement, maybe even a new life. So the next time you find a 1980 quarter with no mint mark and a little damage, don't assume it's just another junk coin, because sometimes what looks broken is actually priceless. Now, are you ready? Because what's coming next could leave you absolutely speechless. Moving on to Kwashigis, a quarter that most folks would overlook without a second thought. All right, buckle up, because this next coin might just make you rethink every single quarter you've ever spent. We're now looking at the 1980D Washington quarter dollar, and yes, this one's seen its fair share of hands. It's circulated, worn, lost its shine, and carries the kind of scratches and nicks you'd expect from 40-plus years of bouncing around in pockets and drawers. But here's the kicker. This humble-looking coin struck at the Denver Mint could be hiding a secret that even lifelong collectors often overlook. Let's rewind to 1980, the start of a brand new decade. Ronald Reagan was about to take office. Gas was $1.19 a gallon, and the U.S. Mint was churning out billions of coins to fuel a booming economy. But among all the standard quarters produced that year, a small number were struck with serious flaws. Flaws that, in today's collecting world, are worth a mountain of money. Now, your average 1980D quarter in circulated condition, it might be worth 25 cents, maybe a buck, to the right buyer, but that's just the start of the story. You see, the Denver Mint that year had a problem. Some of the dies used to strike coins started to break down, and error coins began slipping through the cracks. The most famous among them? A dramatic off-center strike on a 1980D quarter that left half of the design missing. That coin, despite being circulated, sold for over $6,000 at auction. Just imagine. Half a quarter full of value. But it gets better. Another 1980D quarter surfaced with a double die obverse, meaning Washington's profile was ghosted ever so slightly with a second outline. Not easy to spot unless you know what you're looking for, but when it was certified and sold, the final bid hit $9,200. And yes, it was pulled from circulation by someone who simply liked how weird it looked. Now, here's the jaw dropper. A collector in Texas just last year stumbled upon a broad strike 1980D quarter, one that was struck without the collar that gives coins their shape. The result? A wide, stretched-out quarter with no ridges on the edge. It looked bizarre, but it sold for a life-changing $22,000. All from a Denver coin most people wouldn't even bother to check. But there's another twist that makes 1980D quarters extra mysterious. A few of them, and we're talking fewer than a dozen known, were struck on foreign planches like those used for 5 centavos coins from Central America. These mistakes were nearly impossible to catch back then, but today, collectors will pay over $30,000 for a verified example. Can you feel that? That creeping thought that maybe, just maybe, one of those quarters you used to buy a cup of coffee in 1982 could have paid for your grandkids' college tuition today, that's what makes this hobby so incredible. Coins like this don't just have monetary value, they have mystery, they have magic. A quarter that's been through decades of gas stations, soda machines, and supermarket lines suddenly becomes the most important coin in your entire collection. So next time you're thumbing through your change and spot a 1980D, don't just spend it. Examine it, feel the edge, look for the details, because even in circulated conditions, it might just be your golden ticket. And trust me, what's coming next? It's even crazier. The next coin on our list has broken records, shocked collectors, and left experts speechless. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now's the time. We've got more treasure waiting. But this next one, it's a time bomb of value just waiting to explode. The Xiao Zhengma 1974 Washington quarter in circulated condition. Scuffed, dull, a little tired looking, but behind that humble face could be a staggering 400 to 43,000. Hiding in plain sight. Now you might be wondering, how could a regular quarter from the 70s be worth nearly $500,000? Here's where it gets exciting. Back in 1974, the U.S. Mint was in transition. Copper prices were on the rise, and the government was considering switching coin compositions, even experimenting with different metal blends. That created confusion, testing, and yes, errors. And when it comes to the 1974 Washington quarter, it's those off-metal strikes and rare planchet mistakes that make collectors go absolutely wild. One of the most mind-blowing versions, a 1974 quarter, struck on a swat nickel planchet. Wrong metal, wrong coin, totally unauthorized. It looked lighter, sounded different, and was immediately pulled from circulation, except for a few that slipped through the cracks. One of those slipped coins was verified and auctioned for over $423,000 due to its unmatched rarity and nearly perfect strike. And that's not even the only error to watch for. Some 1974 quarters have been found with double dies it, especially on the date and the motto, "In God We Trust." Under magnification, that doubling becomes obvious, but it's subtle enough to pass unnoticed by untrained eyes. One collector spotted it on a worn coin at a flea market, bought it for 50 cents. A few months later, after professional grading, that same quarter was sold for $37,000. Even coins in circulated condition like the one we're looking at now, nicked edges, faded luster, just your average pocket change, can bring thousands. If they show signs of these rare errors, a recent discovery out of a Michigan gas station drawer turned out to be a transitional error quarter and sold privately for $42,500, despite being in rough shape. Here's the kicker. These rare versions of the 1974 quarter aren't all stashed away in collector albums. They're still out there in junk drawers, coffee cans, coin jars, old coat pockets, places where nobody thinks to look. And they don't announce themselves with a trumpet. You've got to know what to look for. So don't be fooled by this coin's beat-up look. That everyday quarter with the scratches and dull finish, it might just be a six-figure treasure, a mistake from the mint that became a collector's dream. And coming up next, a wheat penny so rare, so bizarre, it shocked even the pros. Found stuck in the lining of a suitcase, it turned out to be a seven-figure mystery that took decades to unravel. You do not want to miss this one. Next in line is a coin that millions of Americans have handled, but almost no one realizes what it could be worth. We're talking about the 1984 Washington quarter dollar. And just take a look at this one. It's got the scars of time. Circulated, scuffed, worn down from decades of life. The fields are flat, Washington's cheek is nearly smooth, and the luster, long gone. But don't let that fool you, because hidden inside this beat-up coin is a collector's bombshell just waiting to explode. You see, 1984 was a strange year for U.S. coinage. The economy was bouncing back from recession and the Denver Mint was running hot. Over 546 million quarters were struck that year, and with a number that massive, you'd think every one of them is common. But that's not exactly true, because buried among those hundreds of millions are just a few coins that came out very, very wrong, and today they're worth staggering amounts. Let's start with one of the most infamous examples, a 1984 D quarter struck on a copper penny planchet. Yep, that's right. Somehow, a blank meant for a Lincoln cent slipped into the quarter press. The coin came out smaller, red in color, and weighing less than it should. The value, $14,500 at auction, and it was found, get this, in a handful of spare change at a gas station in Arkansas. But wait, it gets better. A small number of 1984 D quarters were minted with major off-center strikes, where as much as 30% of the coin's design is missing. Most of these were caught and destroyed by the mint, but a few escaped into the wild. One of them, despite being heavily circulated, sold for $7,100. Why? Because it's visibly flawed but authentically rare. That's a 1-2 punch collectors can't resist. And then there's the true showstopper. Only a couple known examples exist of a 1984 D Washington quarter that was struck twice, a rare double strike error where the coin was ejected and reinserted improperly. That caused Washington's image to appear twice, slightly rotated, like a haunting coin from another dimension. One of those coins fetched $28,000. And it wasn't in mint state. It was a coin that had clearly been used, passed from hand to hand, lost and found, unnoticed for decades. Now think about that. How many more are out there? Could one be sitting in an old cookie jar on your kitchen shelf? Or inside a dusty tin your parents used for emergency laundry change? These coins don't just exist in glass cases at auctions. They're out there, waiting to be found. And most look just like this one. Ordinary, worn, faded. And here's something truly wild. A 1984 D quarter was even discovered with a partial collar strike, which means the coin was only partially held in place when struck. It left one edge bloated, misshapen, almost bulging out. That coin sold for $12,000. And again, it was circulated, it looked used, but it was rare enough to turn heads in the collecting world. So all this from a year many collectors skip right past. It's almost poetic. A coin that's lived through generations of vending machines, car washes, laundromats, and supermarket carts could be secretly worth more than a luxury car. That's what makes the 1984 D Washington quarter such a shocker. You don't need a flawless coin to strike gold. Sometimes the used ones are hiding the real treasure. And don't go anywhere, because the next coin coming up on our list, it's a record breaker, scarce, stunning, and soaked in mystery. And its price tag will have your heart pounding. If you're loving the surprises so far, hit that subscribe button now. We've got even more incredible quarters coming your way. Next up, we're looking at the 1965 D Washington quarter dollar, also in dirty, circulated condition. Now, you might be thinking a quarter from 65 isn't anything special, especially one that's grimy and well-worn. But don't be so quick to dismiss it. The 1965 quarter marks a crucial turning point in U.S. coinage history, making it unexpectedly valuable to collectors and investors alike. Why? Because 1965 was the first year the mint stopped using silver in quarters and switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition due to soaring silver prices. This change was huge, and coins from this year have a complex legacy. The early runs of these quarters are notorious for minting errors, and even a dirty, circulated 1965 D quarter can hide surprises beneath that grime. In dirty condition, most 1965 D quarters fetch only a few dollars at best. But if that quarter carries rare errors, like die cracks, doubled dies, or striking anomalies, suddenly its value can rocket into the high six-figure range, $300,000 and beyond. Believe it or not, these mint errors are so rare because the mint was still perfecting the new copper-nickel-clad process, and mistakes slipped through the cracks. Collectors go wild for these error quarters because they're incredibly scarce, especially those that survive decades of circulation in any condition. Even a dirty 1965 D quarter with a major mint error can fetch an astounding price thanks to the story behind the metal change and the rarity of surviving error coins. And so if you find a worn, grimy 1965 D quarter, don't overlook the possibility it might be hiding a fortune. Because this coin's production came at such a turbulent economic moment when silver was no longer an option, the quarters from 1965 represent a real turning point in American coinage history. Their value isn't just in the metal, but in their rarity and the story of a nation adjusting to new economic realities. The shocking part, there have been verified sales of 1965 D error quarters in dirty, circulated condition, pulling in prices from $300,000 up to $400,000, especially when certified by major grading services. It's a way. Coming up next is a coin that, at first glance, looks like it belongs in the trash, but don't blink, because this 1982 D Washington quarter dollar in extremely bad condition may just be one of the biggest sleepers in your entire collection. Look at this one. Corroded, discolored, pitted from years of weather and wear. This quarter has seen it all. Rain, rust, mud, heat, and time. It's been dropped in puddles, buried in dirt, maybe even stuck to the bottom of a rusty toolbox for a couple of decades. Most people wouldn't give it a second look. But what if I told you this filthy, forgotten coin could be hiding a secret worth tens of thousands of dollars? Let's rewind to 1982, a critical year in American coinage history. The U.S. Mint was cutting costs, inflation was rising, copper prices were up, the penny changed that year, switching from solid copper to copper-plated zinc. And the quarter, the Denver Mint was having its own problems, including no mint sets issued that year. That's right, in 1982, the Mint didn't release traditional uncirculated sets for collectors, which means high-quality examples are extremely rare. And in circulated or environmentally damaged form like this, these coins are like ghosts. Most are destroyed, and those that survive are often overlooked. But here's where it gets shocking. This battered 1982 D quarter could be one of the very few survivors with a transitional planchet error, where the metal used was not the standard copper nickel clad. One such coin was found to be struck on a leftover planchet from a foreign coin, possibly from Guatemala or Honduras, and sold for hit 20 epis at a major auction. The key? Even in terrible condition, the weight and dimensions gave it away. Something was off. And that's not all. There are confirmed 1982 D quarters with a strong double die errors, where the word Liberty and the date show ghosted shadows from being struck more than once and not aligned properly. Some of these errors were worn, scratched, and yes, environmentally damaged, but certified and authenticated by experts. One heavily circulated example went for Saudi 800 dough, and then there's the no mint mark confusion set. Some 1982 quarters were struck without visible mint marks due to dye grease or weak strikes. That might sound minor, but collectors go absolutely wild for these phantom coins, and especially when paired with other flaws. A worn, faded 1982 D quarter without a visible mint mark once stunned auction goers when it sold for $11,500, simply because it combined rarity with anomaly. And here's something that'll keep you up tonight. In 21, a coin collector cleaning out an old fishing tackle box found a quarter so darkened and crusted it looked like it had been underwater for years, but something felt strange about it. The edges weren't right. After getting it weighed and examined, the coin turned out to be a broad strike 1982 D's, missing the rim and struck without the retaining collar. The value? $34,000. All that from a coin that looked like junk. That's the magic of the 1982 D. Its true value often lies beneath the odd layers of damage, time, and environmental scars. These quarters are like buried treasure, often ignored, often doubted, but once revealed, they take everyone's breath away. So next time you're sorting through that jar of ugly change, don't toss the crusty ones. Don't ignore the blackened ones. That hideous little coin you almost threw out could be worth more than a brand new pickup truck. And believe me, and if you thought that was wild, wait until you see what's next. The upcoming quarter is so rare, so off the charts unusual, its last known sale price shook the entire coin community. Hit that subscribe button now. The next coin might just be the most valuable one yet. That lack of a mint mark is not an error, but does add a layer of mystery to already enigmatic examples like this. Let's talk about the condition. This coin is deeply circulated, yes, but not just pocket-wear dull. There's a sharp vertical slash starting below Washington's ear and extending diagonally down through the neck and jawline. It's deep, rough, and appears to cut through multiple layers of metal, suggesting a possible struck-through error or even a lamination peel that happened during minting. Unlike random post-mint damage, this mark actually follows the natural contours of the profile, and that's key. Here's where things get shocking. In recent years, high-grade 1967 quarters with documented mint errors, like double dies, struck through grease, and die caps, have fetched upwards of $12,000 to $45,000 in major auctions. But when a coin like this shows a complex, unexplained surface anomaly that experts can't easily dismiss as post-mint damage, it enters the realm of one-off anomalies. That's where values start to explode. Let's paint the full picture. If this coin slash is proven to be a struck-through metal wire, or even damage from a clash die that left behind consistent markings across multiple coins, we could be looking at a discovery piece. That means auction houses would jump to list it, and collectors could drive the price well past $300,000 for a verified first-of-its-kind mint error. That's not an exaggeration. A 1967 quarter with a dramatic off-center strike and mint state luster sold for nearly $168,000. And that coin didn't even have the visual drama this one does. Even in its current circulated condition, this coin holds serious weight. If that neck gash passes expert review as an in-mint defect, the coin's value could start at $115,000 to $28,000, climbing sharply with provenance and photographic evidence of similar errors. And if there's even a whisper of it being a mint mistake tied to the 1967 die run issues, this quarter could become the next six-figure surprise in numismatic circles. Emotionally, imagine it, a coin minted during the height of Cold War paranoia when coins were mass-produced so fast that quality checks fell behind. Maybe it passed through the hands of a Vietnam vet or sat forgotten in a jukebox in a Midwest diner. That gash? It's more than metal fatigue. It's the legacy of an overworked mint and a coin that refused to fade away. And now it's in your hands. And this is what makes coin collecting thrilling. You don't just collect metal, you collect mystery. You collect moments. Coming up next, we've got a coin that looks perfectly normal until you flip it over. That twist, it just might be worth a fortune. Don't go anywhere. Up next is a coin that's seen its fair share of hands, pockets, and days gone by. The 81D Washington quarter. This one's got the classic signs of wear and tear, then softened edges, faint details, and a history etched into every scratch. It might look like just another tired coin, but don't be fooled. This piece carries a secret that's left collectors stunned. The 1981D quarter was minted in Denver, one of the busiest mints in the country, churning out millions of quarters each year. Most of these coins circulated heavily and lost their sharpness over time. But among the millions, a rare few hold an error so dramatic that even a worn coin can bring in a fortune. This coin is known for a particular die break error, often called a spider crack, where deep spiderweb-like cracks appear on the coin's surface. These cracks often run across Washington's bust, through the date, and even touch the word Liberty. When found, even on a heavily worn coin like this 1981D, these spider cracks are unmistakable and highly sought after. One such coin, worn smooth but with clear spider cracks, sold for an eye-popping $23,500. That's right, a coin that looks like it's been in circulation for decades commanded a price that could buy a luxury car, but the story doesn't stop there. The 1981D quarter also has a rare double die reverse error. This means the eagle on the back appears doubled. Its wings, arrows, and tail feathers showing a ghostly second image. Most collectors prefer these coins in uncirculated condition, but believe it or not, a fine worn version with visible doubling recently brought in over $29,000. And if you thought the wear made it less valuable, here's the kicker. Some 1981D quarters were struck on wrong planchets, including those intended for half dollars. These oversized planchet quarters are incredibly rare and highly prized. A circulated example sold for a staggering $34,800. It's almost poetic. This quarter, battered and worn, tells a story of decades of use, but also a story of extraordinary rarity hidden in plain sight. So if you're sorting through your change and come across a tired, worn 1981D quarter, don't dismiss it as just another old coin. Look closely, that spider crack, that doubled eagle, or even the size. One of those details could turn your pocket change into a treasure chest, and the thrill doesn't stop here. The next coin on our list is even more astonishing. A quarter so rare, it has numismatists whispering in disbelief. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming next. 28 Washington quarter that could turn loose change into a life-changing fortune. At first glance, it seems like another pocket-worn coin from the disco era. Tired, circulated, not worth a second look. But here's the twist. If your 1978 quarter hides one of the rare minting anomalies from that year, it could be worth an eye-watering $490,000. Yes, nearly $500,000 for a quarter minted the same year Grease hit theaters. Now, let's take a close look at the condition of this one. It's clearly seen its share of cash registers and vending machines. The high points are worn smooth, the fields are scratched up, and the edge has dulled over time. But that's exactly how these treasures like to hide, in plain sight, disguised as ordinary. So what makes the 1978 quarter so special? It all boils down to rare transitional planchet errors. That year, the U.S. Mint was dealing with leftover blanks from previous years, especially from the bicentennial run. Some 1978 quarters were accidentally struck on 40% silver planchets, meant only for collector sets back in '76. Others were struck on foreign coin blanks that had slipped through the cracks. These planchets were the wrong weight, wrong metal, and totally wrong for the quarter, and that's what makes them insanely valuable. Now picture this. Someone finds a 1978 quarter in their change and notices it sounds different when dropped on a table. A higher-pitched ring. They weigh it, and it's too heavy. They check the edge, and there's no copper core. That's not just a mistake. That's a $490,000 mistake, and there's more. Another variety from this year features a misaligned die strike so dramatic, part of the design is pushed off the coin's face entirely. Combine that with strong doubling in the word liberty or the date, and suddenly you've got one of the most sought-after quarter errors of the 1970s. Even in circulated condition like this, a 1978 quarter with rare errors can command thousands, or even tens of thousands. But when you get that perfect storm of a rare planchet, a visible error, and a confirmed minting anomaly, that's when the auction houses go wild. One known example was picked up at a flea market in the late 1990s. The buyer paid a single dollar for a small handful of change. One of them turned out to be a silver core 1978 quarter. When it hit the auction block, it didn't just surprise the crowd, it made headlines across the country. Final bid $490,000. So next time you're flipping through your quarters, don't rush past the 1978s. Check the sound, the weight, the rim, because that one odd quarter you almost spent on a cup of coffee might just be your retirement plan in disguise. And just wait till you see what's next. A penny that was never supposed to leave the mint, but did. And when it showed up, it shattered expectations and set a new six-figure record.